Welcome to US Rail Journeys Series 3. It's been a long time coming, but with the easing of travel restrictions, I've made the journeys I had originally planned for the spring of 2020. So far in this series, I've travelled on Amtrak's Silver Star, the Crescent and the Texas Eagle. I'm now continuing my 6,684-mile rail tour using the Lakeshore Limited to New York, before my final journey on the Acela to Boston. Episode 35, where after a delay to remove a faulty carriage from the train, we travel through the night from Chicago to Cleveland on the Lakeshore Limited. The Lakeshore Limited is an overnight service running between Chicago and either New York City or Boston. The train began service in 1975, taking over from the Amtrak Chicago New York Lakeshore, which had operated from 1971. The original New York Central Lakeshore Limited was discontinued in 1956. In 2019, the Lakeshore Limited carried 357,682 passengers, which was an increase of 5.9% from the previous year. The New York section of the train is train number 48, eastbound, and 49 westbound, and covers 959 miles between Chicago and New York. The Boston section is train 448 eastbound and 449 westbound, and covers 1,017 miles. They run as a single train between Chicago and Albany. Typically it has 2 locomotives, a Viewliner baggage car, 3 Amfleet 2 coaches, 1 split business cafe car, a Viewliner 2 diner and 3 Viewliner sleepers. I think tonight there's 1 or maybe 2 sleepers, as it appears that one of them had a fault. By the sound of it, a flat tyre. From Chicago to Cleveland, the train uses the Chicago line, which belongs to the Norfolk Southern Railway and is also used by the Capital Limited. From Cleveland to Hoffman's, the Lakeshore uses the tracks of a number of CSX subdivisions. The New York section operates on the Metro-North Railroad's Hudson Line from Poughkeepsie to the Bronx. Amtrak tracks are used twice, for a section after the Hoffmans, and also from the Bronx to Penn Station. For a short distance from Hudson, 110 mile/hour operation is possible. The journey starts at Chicago Union Station, Amtrak's flagship station in the Midwest. Union Station opened in 1925. It handles about 140,000 passengers on an average weekday. It is one of Chicago's iconic structures, with Bedford limestone Beaux Arts facades, massive Corinthian columns, marble floors and a great hall, all highlighted by brass lamps. There are direct connections to multiple transit authorities, including Chicago Transit Authority buses, Chicago L lines, Metra, Pace and Greyhound. All are either in the station or a short walk away. In 2019, over 3,300,000 Amtrak passengers used the station. Our scheduled departure was 9:30 p.m. It's now 10:30. We are on the train, we have boarded, and we're waiting to depart. We're moving. 1 hour and 10 minutes late. Considering that we were told we might be going to board at 10:30, I think we've done pretty well. We soon cross the Illinois-Indiana state line. Our first scheduled stop, just before midnight, is in South Bend, about 84 miles into our journey. South Bend is served by the Lakeshore Limited and the Capitol Limited. The station was built by the Chicago, South Shore and South Bend Railroad in 1970, and South Shore Line trains continued to use it until 1992. Until 1970, South Shore Line Interurban served downtown South Bend at LaSalle and Michigan, where there had been a stop since 1908. However, the city wanted to remove street running, and the South Shore Line wanted to reduce costs. So on August 7, 1969, South Bend Mayor Lloyd M. Allen announced that the railway would move to a new station, which opened in 1970. When Amtrak took over the intercity rail service in 1971, it used this station instead of the far larger Union Station. Nearly 20,000 Amtrak passengers used the station in 2019. We've travelled another 18 miles east from South Bend when we reach Elkhart, and are now 102 miles east of Chicago and 150 miles north of Indianapolis. It has the larger population of the two principal cities of the Elkhart-Goshen Metropolitan Statistical Area. Elkhart Station is used by the Capitol Limited and the Lakeshore Limited. It has a waiting room and is only open in early mornings and late evenings, half an hour before the first westbound and eastbound train arrives. There's no ticket agent, although the station has staff to help arriving and departing passengers. It was originally built in 1900 by the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern Railway, and a freight depot, built of red brick trimmed with limestone, was added in 1907. The station was originally in a well-kept garden with beds of colourful flowers and a row of trees along the tracks. In 2019, over 20,630 passengers used the station. Because of our late departure, it was after 2:30 in the morning when we reached Waterloo in Indiana. This isn't the Waterloo station in London, Britain's busiest with over 90 million passenger journeys each year, but Waterloo, Indiana, a small town of under 2,500 people. The station also serves the much larger population of Fort Wayne, some 25 miles to the south. It opened in 1990. In 2016, the former New York Central Railroad station building was moved and reopened for passenger use. The station has a waiting room and toilet facilities, and opens for short periods before the trains arrive. When in 1858 the Michigan Southern and Northern Indiana Railroad completed its Northern Indiana Air Line from Toledo to Elkhart, the first passenger office for the town was merely a boxcar placed alongside the track. In 1883, the Lakeshore Michigan Southern Railroad built a new wooden station, serving both the East-West Airline and the North-South Fort Wayne and Jackson Railroad. By 1914, both lines were under the control of the New York Central Railroad. Passenger services on both lines ceased in the mid-20th century. In 1984, the station building was moved 1,000 feet east to protect it from plans to demolish it. The town renovated it as a community centre. The Lakeshore Limited began stopping at Waterloo in 1995, and nearly 21,000 Amtrak passengers used the station in 2019. Our next stop during the night was at Bryan, where we'd crossed the state line from Indiana to Ohio. It's unmanned and 8 miles south of the Ohio Turnpike. The station is located across the tracks from a former Lakeshore, Michigan Southern Railway station and east of a former New York Central freight depot. The Amtrak station opened in 1980. In 2020, an investment of $3.3 million was announced to upgrade the station, add toilets and enhance access. In 2017, passenger numbers grew to 5,825. Somewhere after 3 o'clock we reached Toledo, a major Midwest port city. It's the 4th most populous city in Ohio, and based on the 2020 census, the 79th largest city in the United States, with a population of 270,871. It's a major trade center for the Midwest, as the port is the 5th busiest on the Great Lakes. The city was founded in 1833 and saw fast growth after the completion of the Miami and Erie Canal in 1845. It also benefited from being on the railway between New York City and Chicago. Glass manufacture started in the 1880s, earning Toledo its nickname, the Glass City. Today there's an arts community, auto assembly plants, education, thriving healthcare, and well-supported local sports teams. Martin Luther King Jr. Plaza, formerly called Central Union Terminal and Central Union Plaza, is the main passenger rail and intercity bus station in Toledo. The Capital Limited, between Chicago and Washington, and the Lakeshore Limited stop here. The station is also served by Greyhound and Barron's bus lines. The building is in the streamlined modern style and is owned by the Toledo-Lucas County Port Authority. Originally a Gothic-style Union Station was built in 1886 to serve several of the major rail lines passing through Toledo. That was destroyed by fire in 1930. The station was replaced by what is considered to be one of the last of the New York Central Railroad's great stations, the Central Union Terminal, which opened in September 1950. It was the $5 million crown jewel of the railway's post-war investment in Toledo. The first floor housed baggage services, while the second floor housed a YMCA for train crews. The passenger terminal and concourse were on the third floor, and divisional and dispatching offices were on the fourth. The station was used by nearly 50,200 passengers in 2019. Toledo has the distinction of hosting the first National Train Day every year, a week before the event is held in other cities nationwide. Just over 280 miles into our journey, we reach Sandusky Station, which consists of an uncovered platform on the north side of the east-west tracks, a small car park and 2 buildings. The old Railway Express Agency baggage building is boarded up. whilst the main building has a small waiting room for Amtrak passengers, as well as offices for the Sandusky Transit System and the North Central EMS. The station was originally built in 1892 by the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern Railway and was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1975. In the heyday of passenger train travel, the station was a local stop, bypassed by most New York Central named trains on the Chicago-New York City route. Passenger services ended in 1971, but were reinstated on July the 29th, 1979, when it became a stop for the Lakeshore Limited. The Capital Limited and the Lakeshore Limited both passed through the station in the middle of the night. 8,821 passengers got up early to use the station in 2019. A little after 6 o'clock we reached Cleveland, situated on the southern shore of Lake Erie. It's on the US maritime border with Canada and about 60 miles west of the Ohio-Pennsylvania state border. The city had a population of 372,624 in 2020 and is the 54th largest city in the United States. The city was founded in 1796 by General Moses Cleveland, and it became a major manufacturing centre. It is also a port city connected to the Atlantic Ocean via the St. Lawrence Seaway. The city's economy is diversified, specialising in manufacturing, financial services, healthcare, biomedicals and higher education. The city's cultural institutions include the Cleveland Museum of Art, the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, the Cleveland Orchestra, Playhouse Square and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Cleveland Lakefront Station was built in 1977 for the Lakeshore Limited route. It replaced the Cleveland Union Terminal, which had opened in 1930. It officially opened on June the 29th, 1977, and according to Amtrak's employee magazine, a crowd of more than 300 gathered for the dedication. Lakefront Station is located in downtown Cleveland, near the Lake Erie waterfront. The station needs some tender loving care, having had little repair work since it first opened. The station is a service stop for both the Lakeshore Limited and Capital Limited trains, which pass through during the night and in the early morning. The station is also served by the RTA Waterfront Line. Over 53,500 passengers used the station in 2019. The man with the microphone thanks the passengers and crew on train number 48, the Lakeshore Limited, which left Chicago Union Station on Thursday the 7th of July 2022, bound for New York. The US Rail Journeys podcasts are produced and published by the Mr. T Podcast Studio. Thank you very much for listening. And please join me again in a couple of weeks for the next instalment.